As we travel through the tunnel, I freeze when I hear the faint sound of voices. Catching Leanna's eye, she wordlessly motions for us to stay low. Zack responds with an imperceptible nod. We creep carefully towards the mouth of the tunnel and hide behind the towering stalagmites. Kara, Zack, and Jinglin are on one side, while Leanna, Amy, and I are on the other. The Pongo flattens himself as low as possible on the ground. Peeking around the corner, I see a group of about a dozen people or so bustling back and forth. The clinking of pickaxes echo through the cave as some of the men chip at the rocks. One of the men removes a luminescent crystal from the cave side and carries it over to a receptacle. They're collecting water crystals. Leanna and Amelia look equally concerned. Leanna already has her manipulator ready for a scan. When she sees the results, her jaw clenches. She shows Amy, who frowns. I drop my voice to a whisper. What is it?
Void.
I peer out again. In the middle of the cave are a group of cloaked figures. As one shifts, I spot double manipulators on his arms. A mage caster. It makes sense that they need someone who knows water magic to reach the temple, but that's still some serious power they're packing for a mining operation. If this is just a mining operation, why are there mages?
It would seem the mining efforts of the water crystals here are to supplement the transmutation efforts of Void.
We have to stop them.
It doesn't look like they're set up yet. I scan the area. There are a few scouts on lookout at the main cavern entrance, a couple of mages, and a handful of miners. No one seems to have detected our presence yet. Zack motions towards us, catching our attention. He signals that we should flank them and attack. Leanna nods. Zack and Kara begin to creep closer to the tunnel opening, and Leanna and Amy confer.
Keep your magic ready. The rest of the team will focus on the scouts and miners. But we'll want to take out those mages as soon as possible.
Makes sense. Yep. They're the biggest danger. Amelia nods and her manipulators glow. As Leanna readies herself, we begin to move in. I ready my sword and feel the tingle of magic in my fingers. Once everyone is in position, Amelia lets loose a fireball, which lands square in the back of the mage caster. Zack and Kara race out and engage the nearest miners. Jinglin rushes towards the entrance to take care of the guards, while Leanna and I charge the mages. I like we just assumed that Jinglin was also like combat ready, and he seems like he is. All right, void combat. Click the matching icon. Okay, so X, sword, sword, shield, spark, sword, sword. That one is easy. Like 4 of them were sword. I defeat the last Void member and he drops to the ground. Panting hard, I survey the fallen Void members, my adrenaline still high. None of them stir. Slowly, everyone trickles back together, checking that no Void members are still conscious.
Everyone okay?
We all nod.
How did Void know where the temple is?
I wondered the same thing. We got pretty lucky in finding this place.
They must be growing exponentially in power and amassing more resources than anticipated.
What do we do with those mined crystals?
We should take them. They can still be fashioned into crystal spheres, since they haven't been tainted.
And, you know, those are obviously good resources to have, yeah. Good for us to have, bad for them to have. Kara and Leanna begin to organize the fallen crystals when we hear shouting down one of the tunnels. What's that?
It sounds like Void reinforcements.
Those scouts must have alerted the rest of the troops before we took them out.
Darn. The shouting ceases, but we hear the thunder of footsteps, and before long, a group of about 20 men surround us. Oh no. Zack shoots at the nearest men, but more replace the ones who fall. Leanna and Amelia shoot blasts of energy at anyone who tries to surround us, but the men keep closing in. Kara throws a handful of daggers at anyone who approaches, and I channel my energy and blast anyone who comes too close. Although our efforts are formidable, the enclosing reinforcements seem endless. As one man falls, another body soon replaces it. They close in on us until we are standing back to back. Where's Jinglin? That's his name, right? Where's Jinglin at this point? Our breathing is labored as we struggle to hold off the men. Okay, there we go. Jinglin closes his eyes, and when he opens them, they flash purple. His entire body is encased in a violet glow, beginning from a spot in his necklace beneath his throat.
Stand back!
His voice is harsh and throaty, unlike his usual smooth, velvety tones. He waves his arm and elongated shadows extend from his fingertips, pushing back the invading force. Void men groan as they're knocked backwards. Oh cool, so he's a shadow person who's actually not a bad guy. I like that. Before they can get back up, Jinglin points and shadow magic channels out of his hands, colliding square into the enemy's chests. Again, not possessive. They collapse to the ground as more men swarm in. Jinglin mutters a few words and throws out his hands again. This time, as the energy channels out of him, it morphs into a phantom claw, which swipes the nearest group of Void members. I watch, stunned, as Jinglin moves in a blur, dodging attacks from all of the Void team. Zack occasionally shoots at anyone who gets too close to him, but soon the attention shifts away from us entirely as everyone targets Jinglin. He barely seems to notice a number of men against him as one by one they fall, until a pile of unconscious bodies lay at his feet. Once the last man falls, Jinglin lowers his arms and ceases his magic. His eyes return to normal as he looks at our slack-jawed stares.
Are any of you hurt?
Slowly, we shake our heads.
That was shadow magic you were using.
Oh, was it? Jinglin looks apologetic.
Yes, it was.
He looks down and hides the locket that fell out of his shirt during battle, but not before Leanna notices it.
You were using tainted shadow magic against Void, and that fighting style.
Tainted shadow magic then? So was that a, what's it called? A saturated thing?
Yes.
Suddenly, both Leanna and Amelia gasp.
It can't be! You're really him?
I don't know who this is. Jinglin smiles sheepishly. Who is he? What's going on?
It would seem Jinglin is not Jinglin the Bard, but he is also Robin Ostergaard.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, one of the heroes of Asaria, yeah, Robin was a bard. I don't remember him looking like this, though. I remember him having, like, a smaller frame. I thought I remembered him as, like, a redhead. I mean, I guess he's older, so the silver could make sense, but still, different. I'm down. I remember seeing that name somewhere. I racked my brain trying to remember. It was in the Heroes of Asaria exhibit. Yeah, he was one of the heroes. Oh, from the Heroes of Asaria exhibit. Robin Ostergaard. Yeah, I thought he was dead.
For all intents and purposes, Robin is dead.
Oh, gotcha.
Why did you disguise yourself as a bard?
He didn't disguise himself as a bard. He is a bard. He gives a soft smile.
I thought it would be best. With all of the disturbances Void caused, there was a massive stigma against.
So I'm not calling him Jinglin anymore.
I didn't want people to misconstrue the events of what happened or who I really am.
That's fair. I guess he's Robin now.
I may have been a part of Void in the past, but it was before they turned into the Void that created and used tainted spheres. When their ideals began to shift, I got out. I was lucky, but not everyone was.
I remember your story, man. I'm sorry. His voice chokes up and he pauses as he composes himself. I think back to the story he told around the campfire. That must have been his story. Robin's story.
So you gave up the prestige associated with the heroes.
He nods.
Times were hard. People were confused and on edge. It was simpler for Robin to become what they wanted him to be.
Dead?
I became the Bard.
Oh, okay.
To keep the memory of the heroes alive, so they could continue to provide hope for the people.
No wonder he holds such high respect from the people of Asaria. He truly does care more about the well-being of his country rather than his own needs. I don't know if I'd have been able to so easily give up the temptation of fame and glory. Robin shakes his head and an urgency returns to his voice.
But we need to focus. Void is continuing to taint crystals. It seems like they're only growing stronger.
We've been noticing more of a presence of Void, too.
Robin nods.
Since the tainted crystals are the source of their rise in power, you'll have to find a way to stop production of those spheres.
Right.
It would make the most sense that production would happen at the base of their operations.
Where is that?
The Shadow Temple.
Oh no, you mean we do have to go to the final temple? That must have been where their operations began back when he was still a part of Void.
They can use the latent energy there to maximize output of tainting crystals. If you're able to reach the temple and absorb the energy within, you'll put a major dent in their operation.
Yeah, that would make sense. I immediately look at Leanna when he mentions absorbing energy. Leanna looks just as alarmed as I do. She's about to retort when Robin stops her.
I saw what happened at the temple just now, and I felt the change in energy levels.
He turns to me.
I don't know how you're able to do that, but I've seen my share of crazy things in life, and I know that what you have is a gift. Don't be afraid of it because it strays from the norm. Use it for good.
Thank you, Robin. I feel the earnestness in his voice, and it empowers me.
If what he says is true, then it would behoove us to journey to the Shadow Temple.
I do wish that Robin's, lines were louder.
Do you know where it is, Amy?
I would need to consult Elderism's notes.
The Shadow Temple is in the west, right on the border of Avengard.
Oh. Okay.
That's the opposite side of where we are now.
I will mark it down on the map for you all.
Thank you. Robin and Amelia talk further as he points out the exact location of the Shadow Temple. I survey the fallen Void members around us. What exactly should we do about these guys? And the crystals?
I'll take care of them. You all should get going.
You aren't coming with us?
He shakes his head, aw.
I know you are all more than capable of handling whatever you may encounter. I have other business to attend to now.
Well, he was a fun party member while it lasted. Leanna pauses and then nods reluctantly. I mean, to be fair, I did think it was really late to include, to suddenly bring in another party member into the story. But I was accepting it, because he was fun.
It's been an honor traveling with you.
Robin grips her hands.
I am the one who is honored to be able to know such a formidable mage knight.
What a good guy!
It has been a most enlightening experience to have made your acquaintance. I only wish we had more time to further speak about your background. I have many questions.
I'm sure our paths will cross again someday.
Zack nods.
Take care.
Robin nods back.
I'll look forward to reading about the dashing beauty who helped save the team from danger.
He laughs.
I wouldn't dream of leaving her out of the story.
Kara blushes. Robin puts on a bittersweet grin.
Until we meet again.
As surely we will. After we say our goodbyes, Amelia conjures up the same bubble for us to travel back through the water. We hurry up the stairs until we return to the valley within the mountains.
It seems Void's presence is even greater than we thought.
Agreed. This is more than just a few scattered fanatics. They're reorganized.
Perhaps we should alert the authorities.
You think they're just gonna take our word for it and believe that Void is back? They'll launch an investigation which would take months, maybe years. And by the time they realize it's true, Void will be even stronger.
I don't know about that part, just because we could be like, hey, you should check out this one location. If we're wrong, arrest us. If not, you'll have confirmed that Void is at the Shadow Temple. If they were willing to check out one temple. I feel like that would confirm things pretty well. Maybe not. I don't know how their operations are handled there. While the team debates on next steps, I remain quiet. Void is also on the rise and the team needs my help to defeat them. But I have energy from 4 temples now, and I have a feeling that this should be enough energy to open a rift and return back home. If I even can return home. Amelia's warning about my casting resilience is on the forefront of my mind. It nibbles on my thoughts and feeds on my fear. If I try to open a rift, there's a very real possibility that I won't survive the channeling of so much energy. The faces of my family remind me of what I've left behind. How long have I been gone? Are they worried about me? My gaze wanders to Leanna. My heart flutters whenever I see her big blue eyes fall on me. Her smile makes me feel like I'm walking on air. I love her caring nature and the way she keeps me grounded. Now that I know her, I can't imagine a life without her in it. Terra feels just as real as my home on Earth. What would happen if I left them here to defeat Void without me? Would they be okay without me, or would I just be setting them up for failure? Let's stay and fight, what the heck? I can't go home now. There's too much to be done here, and I care too much about these people to turn away from them in their time of need. I glance at Leanna. There's no way I can let her down. I'll look into going home after we defeat Void. I grin. Let's go kick some Void butt. The others stop their planning and turn to me. Leanna matches my grin.
That's right. Let's get going.
Indeed, it would be beneficial for us to depart this place.
We all agree. We travel through the mountains until we find a soft, grassy place to make camp. It's dusk by the time we've gathered all the ingredients for dinner. Leanna helps me prepare our meal as the others are gathered around the map. She stokes the fire with her wind magic. The flames burst higher, crackling and heating up our stew. The firelight casts an orange glow across her beautiful face. I smile and lean in to kiss her on the cheek. She squeaks and my lips come into contact with something cool and hard. I blink and my lips have kissed her gauntlet instead. Oh, what's wrong? My words are muffled, lips moving against her palm. Leanna's voice lowers to a hush.
What if they see us?
I glance at the group. They seem to be too absorbed in the map to even notice. Does that matter now? She blushes and I gently take her hand in mine. Leanna freezes. She glances at my hands covering hers, my gigantic hands. Another faint blush heats her cheeks. She shakes her head.
I guess it doesn't.
An odd joy unfurls in my chest and a grin spreads across my face. I glance at the group and then back to her. If we acknowledge we're dating to the group, maybe Leanna would be more comfortable acting like a real couple in front of everyone. Maybe we should tell them we're dating? Leanna turns a darker shade of red. She bites her lip, hesitating. I squeeze her hand. Her blue eyes flick up to meet mine.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I feel like they're all kind of gonna know, but, you know, she squeezes back. A smile graces her lips.
How do you think we should do it?
One of us should tell them. Show, don't tell. Let's make out. Just let it happen naturally. Wait, how do you let it happen naturally? Not entirely. But I'm just gonna do that then. Whatever. Let's see what it is. Don't overthink it. We should rejoin them and just say whatever comes to us. Leanna pouts.
Maybe this isn't a big deal to you, but I'm a bit nervous.
I bring her hand to my lips and kiss it. Don't worry, everything will be just fine, I promise. She smiles and relaxes. Let's go. I tuck her to a stand, gently leading her to the group. Nerves flutter in my stomach as we approach.
According to the notes, if we head in this direction...
Hey, you guys. Everyone looks up. The Pongo blinks from on top of Amelia's head. We have an announcement. Kara raises her eyebrow.
Oh?
Yes. They stare, waiting for me to continue. I glance at Leanna. Her blue eyes shimmer with confidence. She nods, encouraging me to go on. Oh, she's confident now, okay. I suck in a deep breath. Leanna and I are dating. Everyone, including the Pongo, blinks.
Right.
She turns to... See, I knew they all knew that. She turns to face the map again. The rest of the team follows suit.
Okay, then if we want to go through here, the last location will be at
Measure what? Hey!
We'll have to backtrack to Costa Coral too.
Did you even hear what I said? The party looks up. Zach crosses his arms.
Yeah. So?
So? Don't you care? A fox's grin slides across Kara's face.
It's not exactly new news.
See? Leanna balks.
What?
Shock floods me. How did you find out? I think of all the times Leanna masked my advances, all the secret glances we took to make sure no one was looking. Kara's eyes spark with mirth.
It was very, very obvious.
I feel like main characters should have at least known that Kara knew. Heat scorches up into my face. I turn to look at Leanna and notice her face is just as red as mine.
But how? We were so careful.
Kara giggles, as pleased as a cat in the sun.
You're right. Maybe you two should show your affection so we know you're telling the truth.
Kara!
Amy cocks her head, deep in thought. The Pongo lets out a little squeak as he slips onto her shoulder.
This is an interesting development.
It is? She nods.
Based on your individual masteries of energy manipulation, your genetic merge should yield an extremely magical inclined offspring.
Well, that's cool. We'll have super babies. Kara gasps.
Oh, you're right! They will have such beautiful babies together!
Amelia turns to look at her.
I noticed you used the plural.
Of course!
Her eyes shimmer with stars as she imagines our future children.
Such sweet, beautiful, magical children. I can just see them.
Zach gives her a strange look and tries to hide in the background. Kara does like kids.
This conversation is ending right now.
What? Babies? Leanna, let's get started. Well, now you guys know. Stores deliver babies in Terra too? Oh, yeah, just gonna... Yep. I shrug. Now you guys know. Kara pouts.
It's no fun if you don't take the bait.
Another shrug. Well, our confession wasn't as dramatic as I thought it was going to be. I wonder when they first started to figure it out. I'm gonna go check on the stew. Leanne and I return to the stew. Once everything is done cooking, we ladle out bowls as everyone joins us for dinner. Dinner is strange without Jinglin. I kinda miss his stories. After dinner, Leanna and I turn in early for bed. Leanna seems to fall asleep quickly, but I can still hear the others snickering and planning out our next course of action. I groan and pull my pillow over my ears. It takes a while, but eventually, I fall asleep. Alright, and there is our happy, peaceful, sleepy time music. And so, I'm gonna click just to make, like, music start, and then we'll save. And then we're gonna call this session. After a well-rested night, we wake up bright and early for another full day of travel. Alright, there's our music. So I'm gonna quick save here. And then, menu, save, and here's our latest one. Awesome, there we go. Okay, so now to talk about this recording session. So first, I suppose, the Jinglin thing was cool. I enjoyed Robin as a character. Again, I did think it was a little late to have someone new join the party, but they weren't someone joining the party. It is a little, I mean, I guess, like, I was gonna say it's a little interesting how, like, he got the full sprite treatment, while as What's-Her-Face, one of the other heroes, you know, like, she only got, well, a number of the other heroes, actually, but I was thinking specifically the one with Broodman. You know, they got their own little picture just in the bottom left corner, and that was it, not the whole sprite thing. But Jinglin rather needed a sprite because he was actually coming with us on our journey. He was more of a lasting character. He didn't last too long in the party, but, you know, certainly longer than they did. I'm a little disappointed that he's gone, but it makes more sense within the story, I feel, because, again, just having a new permanent addition to the team so late in the story seems a little bit weird, but he was a fun character, I'll give him that. He seemed very supportive of the team and seemed to be able to teach them a lot, or just, you know, offer them reassurance, different perspectives, that kind of thing, so it was enjoyable. I'm making, like, hand motions like this beneath the desk, I realize no one can see. I think that, well, I was gonna say I think it's interesting, but not like as a newly interesting thing, but just I had already thought it was interesting. But now, like, the main character is aware of the fact that he can cast multiple different elements. So there's a thing where I already figured that. I just thought that was something to be assumed. And I do find it interesting. But the way that it was, like, suddenly put out, you know, it was a little weird, just because, again, I thought that we had already known about a lot of the things that were talked about in this session. Main character's learning it for the first time is like, wait, what? Or, like, Amelia's just now coming up with it. I still think the whole temporal rift thing requiring all of the elements is dumb, just because, one, how would she expect someone to be able to summon all of the elements? Two, does that include shadow as an element, and how would everyone be okay with that? Three, I'm just gonna make three, etc. Little cop-out. But you get me. I already talked about this before. It was just kind of weird. You know, like, it felt too many assumptions were made there on the characters' parts, and things were left out, which I feel like they wouldn't leave out. Same kind of thing where when we saved the boy falling from the cliff, you know, Leanna came up and just didn't seem to have any reaction at all, even though I just did something that was impossible, you know? Unless she was the one who had saved him, I would expect some kind of reaction, at least surprise and relief that the boy was okay, but she didn't seem like anything, so that was disappointing. I'm jumping around a lot, I know, but now let's jump back a bit to Vare. I think that was, you know, I think that could have been done better. It makes sense for Zack's storyline, and it does add more to his character, and just, again, you know, makes sense of some of the things, like how he is as a character, etc. But I wish that we had learned at least more of that earlier on, I don't think it was hinted at too well. I get that Zack is a, you know, stoic guy that doesn't share that much, especially about his past, given that his past is a bit spotty. But I feel like we just learned a bunch of it when we met Vare. You know, even if we had, like, been dropped little hints on the way to their little, you know, the Cloak Brotherhood's operation, or their base, That would have been better, but instead it's just like, once we see him, it's like, there! You're alive? But you're my orphaned brother who I went to find during a mission, and then I couldn't find you, and I assumed you were dead, but then instead, everyone on the train died, and I had to jump off, and they thought I was dead, so they didn't come after me, but you're still here, and you're evil now. You know, it was all just like, whoa, oh, I get it, okay. You know, it was just a wave of exposition, and I think it could have been handled better. Again, like the details themselves are all fine for me. Like I'm not upset about that at all. It was just the presentation I think could have been handled better. I don't know. Again, do I have like specific ways in which I would have handled it better? Not necessarily. I think I could come up with some if I thought about it more. But I think they could have taken a little bit more time to do that. And then just while I'm on the topic of little more time, proofread your stuff a little bit more. Like there are so many grammatical errors. Come on. I mean, what? There are needless hyphens, there are missing or like extra apostrophes, you just use straight up the wrong word, like when Amelia says conjunction and you have written conjugation, you know? Like, it's one thing I get if like a script had been written, the voice actor deviated a little bit, or maybe the line was changed in their script at the last moment, or like in the game at the last moment, and so the lines don't match up. But conjunction and conjugation, those are different. So, things like that. But just, you could have taken a little bit more time. And, you know, I'm not trying to be, like, super nitpicky, but the thing is, like, just the fact of the matter is that it would be a more professional project if there were fewer mistakes. Like, that's just the fact of things, you know? Because it's not just me being a grammar Nazi, it's just, if you want a more polished professional game and experience for your, you know, the players, get rid of some of these errors, because there are a lot of them. I point out a lot, but I also don't point out a lot. So that means that there are even more than what I point out. You know what I mean? Yeah. Alright, other stuff. The game is a lot more mature, again, than I had initially thought it would be. When we're straight up referencing BJs, you know, and all that, it's a little weird. But, I mean, to be fair, we also had some cunnilingus later on. So, I guess they're balancing it out. But it's still kind of weird. I was a little taken aback to read about that. I mean, obviously they weren't straight up saying things, but Kara was totally being dirty on that banana. And I knew immediately that Zack and Kara had done something, you know, when they came back. And they really took a lot of time with that. Like, he has leaves in his hair. He has a mark on his neck. He has a scratch on his collarbone. His jacket's crooked. Like, they pointed out everything that could have been like, yeah, like, I get it. He had sex or whatever. But then they just gave us more details about what that actually entailed. Which, yeah, it fits within the character of Kara. But, I don't know, I guess it just depends on, yeah, what your demographic is. Like, if they're intending this for mature audiences, cool, you did it. Because that's definitely not child-friendly. Yeah, and that's why I'm willing to say cunnilingus on camera. Because if you're watching this, you have to be old enough to be able to accept that. Cunnilingus, blowjob, sex, masturbation. Alright, cool. What other things were there? I mean, there was the whole water thing. I mean, actually, just to go back to all the sex stuff, because I know that's everyone's favorite topic on this channel, is, it is interesting how it seems to be building, like, more of that stuff seems to be happening. I know that relationships over time have grown, and so now, you know, the characters are at the point where they express themselves in that way, at least more often, or at least in the case of Kara and Zack. But then we also had, like, it just came up a lot. You know, there was the beach bit, there was the bit in the forest with those two. You know, we've kissed Leanna a few times. There were all the references when we went over to eat at her place. And then going toward the water temple, you know, there was that maze where then there was a whole thing of like, what did Leanna, the illusion Leanna, there we go, do to Zack? You know, and then the water elemental herself, like, totally just coming on to us, you know? Seems a lot of things recently in Crystalline have gone a little more raunchy. And I don't know if that's entirely a coincidence. Again, it makes sense within the relationship stuff a little bit more, just because after getting to know the other characters, or the characters getting to know each other over all the time they've traveled together, yeah, relationships could blossom. But then having like the water temple thing match up with that too, that's really what makes me think, like, oh, you know, are we going in that direction now? Because that didn't have to be that way, but it was. And I'm not saying that's a good thing, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, I'm just saying that's a thing. It's totally up to player interpretation as to whether they enjoy that kind of thing or would rather not focus so much on it. Obviously, that's a matter of, personal opinion. So, yeah, but just something I wanted to point out because it occurred to me. Anything else? Oh, the last thing that comes to mind right at this moment, at least, is the option that we just barely had of, like, whether we're going to try to create a rift to go home or stay with the others and fight the void. I feel like trying to go home wouldn't work, I feel like it wouldn't work. Because otherwise, how much of the game is it just cutting out? And I guess maybe they could just have the game end early in that way, and then you just have to be satisfied with whatever ending you got, but I feel like it wouldn't cut out like that. And immediately after I clicked the answer, like, I knew that I wanted to stay. But immediately after I clicked it, I did regret not saving, because I'm curious to see what it would have done, or what would have happened. But now I'd have to, like, play through this entire session's worth again, reload from where I began in this session and, like, go all the way back through. Or I guess I saved at one point a little earlier on. I don't remember exactly when that was, but still, that would be better. But yeah, like, that would just leave a lot of the story left undone if we actually were able to get home with it. But I totally think that the more reasonable solution, or more reasonable choice, is to, stay and help the others fight the void with the Shadow Temple, or at the Shadow Temple. And that's even if you as a player, or you feel that the character, like, would want to go home. Like, even if you still want to go home, it's one more temple, Like, I guess the biggest thing to me that would throw that off is you don't know about the passage of time and how that relates from Terra to Earth. And so, maybe, like, every week here, is a year on Earth, and so you wouldn't want to miss that. But you have no way of knowing. For all you know, time on Earth is paused while you're in here. You just can't know. It could be either, like, really good for you, or it could be really bad for you. So even if you wanted to go home, though, you're also running the risk of not having enough energy if you don't absorb the Shadow Temple's energy first. And then even if, like, your team doesn't need help with dealing with the void themselves, if you can't, like, if you don't drain the energy from the Shadow Temple, that's just gonna make everything that much more difficult. Like, even if they handle all of the void people, if you don't handle, like, their resources, that's just, that's giving them a lot to work with. So even if you were wanting to go home, unless you were, like, sick of playing the game, or you were trying to play, the main character as someone who didn't like the others or something, I just don't see a reason to want to go home. Now, I do think it was good of them, the developers of Crystalline, I think it was good of them to include that choice, because then it just gives the player, at least, again, more illusion of that choice. Because I don't know if it would actually amount to anything. Again, that would be an early start, or an early end to the game. But I just don't see a reason why you should pick to go home. Like, it seems more risky. You're putting all your friends in greater danger too at that point, and you don't get to see what the rest of the story is. Like, this is big stuff, I feel. So I'm totally satisfied with my choice here. Okay, nothing else is coming to mind right now, so I am going to call this session here. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that you're still enjoying this game along with me. I do know that I'm still enjoying this game. I've come to like Pixel Fade, and I hope that remains consistent, I hope that remains true. If they have future visual novels, I hope that they'll continue to be good, and I hope that they'll pick up someone who can proofread a little bit more, or at all. I don't know what they do, but come on! I can understand a little bit more if it were like on the, branching paths, the ones that maybe people wouldn't go to as often, that there were mistakes. But there are just mistakes on what I'm sure you would have to encounter, like the text you would have to see. So it's weird. The point was, I was ending this. With that, we're calling it here. Cue outro, go!